My name is Keith Sipmann. I'm the state chair for the Arizona Patriot Caucus, and I'm here with JD Hayworth and Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Marcus Kelley, the political consultant and blogger for Sonoran Alliance, and also the host for Grassroots Interviews. And we're here today to talk to JD a little bit. We have a couple questions that were pulled from the members of the Arizona Patriot Caucus and the Tea Party community, and we're going to get started because we don't have a whole lot of time. So these questions actually came from the Tea Party members.
Perfect.
Okay, and I'm just going to read them because they're not mine. As you know, this year has brought a lot of politically inactive American voters out of their homes in America. What would you like to tell all of those new and first-time voters out there in our great state about yourself and why they should vote for you over McCain?
Well, first of all, let me thank all those awakened Americans for getting involved in the political process. And I think we have a remarkable opportunity in 2010 to deal with the restoration of our constitutional republic. The point I would make is this. We appreciate John McCain and his service. But after 28 years in Washington, 24 in the United States Senate, it's time to thank him for his service and welcome him home. Briefly, here's why. He's a conservative of convenience. As one blogger put it, that John McCain, always there when he needs us. On the other hand, I'm a consistent conservative. I helped write the tax cuts of 2001 and 2003 that Mr. McCain opposed. I wrote the Enforcement First Act while Mr. McCain was teaming up with Ted Kennedy to write an amnesty bill. And I opposed the wrong-headed bailout of the Wall Street investment institutions and the accompanying billions of dollars in earmarks. Earmarks Mr. McCain voted for. So I just ask these awakened Americans not to be fooled by all the advertising and the half-truths that the McCain campaign is giving out. Instead, cling to this truth. As your next United States Senator, I will be responsive, and I understand the good Lord gave us 2 ears and only one mouth for a reason. I understand that effective leadership and effective legislating comes through listening. I'll listen to you. Can't say we'll always agree on every subject, but you deserve the courtesy of being listened to, not being lectured to.
Excellent. Next question. SB 1070 has put Arizona's immigration problems in the national and international media's crosshairs. Regardless of the polls that are quoted, the majority of Arizonans support the measure, hands down, and most of America too. I know that you have attended rallies in support of SB 1070, but for those viewers that have not been able to hear your spoken positions on the bill, can you give them a little idea as to why you're in support of the measure and what you'll do to further support it and others like it once you're involved?
Well, first of all, we've got the great example of the gentleman to my right who is willing to enforce immigration law and has been doing so in remarkable fashion. But essentially, Senate Bill 1070 mirrors the Enforcement First Act that I wrote in Congress 5 years ago that I wanted to see the nation take on. Now, sadly, the federal government refused to deal with my bill, and so it was left to Arizona. And there is a clear duty for the states when the federal government is unwilling to enforce its own laws to make sure that order is established and that law and order are maintained. The states have an absolute right to take the action that Arizona did. And the reason for it is to not only empower folks like our good sheriff here, but also to ensure that police departments who were very susceptible to political pressure and to some wrong-headed, politically correct leadership, that they don't allow Arizona municipalities to become de facto sanctuary cities. SB 1070 is loud and clear. Immigration law will be enforced in the state of Arizona, and as I said, it simply mirrors the Enforcement First Act that I wrote at the federal level.
I know that you actually talked a lot about that in your book as well, so, which I also want to bring up here. You've actually written a book titled Whatever It Takes, and where you expose the ongoing battle over the border, sanctuary cities, the current catch-and-release law enforcement system that's in place, except for Sheriff Joe, of course.
That's right. He catches them, they stay caught.
Right. Can you tell the people of Arizona what your specific plan would be, in generalities, of course, what your plan would be to help combat illegal immigration and work towards securing our border? How does your plan differ from Senator McCain's?
Well, Senator McCain's 10-point plan, or however many points it has, is just something for political consumption. When you listen to the senator, he talks tough about the border, but about 3 paragraphs in, you find that infamous collection of words, comprehensive immigration reform. Let me just give you some real straight talk. When you hear John McCain use the term comprehensive immigration reform, he's talking about amnesty. He may try to dress it up. He may try to sound tougher during this election year. Please don't be deceived. I oppose amnesty, and I believe in enforcing the law. And again, that's embodied by the Sheriff of Maricopa County. When you enforce the law, people obey the law. Remember, sometime during the last 18 months, the governor of Sonora, the Mexican state south of our border, was lamenting the fact that so many Sonoran citizens were returning home. Why were they returning home? Well, because the sheriff of Maricopa County, Arizona, was enforcing immigration law. When you enforce the law, people decide to self-deport because they say, gee, it's not my interest to stay here because the law is being enforced. That's the key. That's what this guy does so well, and that's what I'm going to continue to work to have done as the next United States Senator.
Now, in the media and in the Obama administration, the alleged solution to part of this illegal immigration problem is a guest worker program. I think pretty much everybody knows that solution is a broken down issue, but I'd like to actually hear what your position is on the guest worker program.
Guest worker plans that have been developed so far are not sound solutions. What has been talked about in Washington, D.C. and some other places is an effort to paper over the continued invasion of people into our country. Now look, once we secure the border, if we want to reassess and reform our existing immigration laws, there can be a place for that. But you don't get there by inserting an extra layer of quote-unquote guest workers that in essence paper over the problem. We can argue about immigration reform later, but I would maintain that we already have work visas for agricultural workers, for a variety of other workers, and I don't think we have to tear that up or have another program supersede it. The key is border enforcement and no amnesty. And then once we see the federal government can really enforce the laws, then we can take a look at meaningful reform, but it does not include quote-unquote guest worker. There has never been a society in which the guest worker program has worked, whether it's